Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, March 3rd of 2024. It is a nice, snowy, cold morning here in Utah, and I hope that wherever you are, it is crisp, warm, wonderful, just the opportunity to be alive, right? Now today I have a really great message for you today, and the basic theme is learning to release the need to force something to happen. Now, of course, I've been on a Dr. David Hawkins kick, and his beautiful book, Power versus Force, is something that I suggest everybody pick up and read, whether it's Audible or another way if you like reading hard copies of books. This is a book that you can go to over and over and over again, and every single time, in every single chapter, you will pick up something new and relevant to where you are. And what is new and relevant for me is very likely relevant for you right now as far as going with the flow and not forcing anything. In fact, I had someone tell me, I wrote this down in my journal. I had a really lovely conversation with a long-time customer this week. Rich, if you're watching this, it was lovely talking to you this week. And one of the things that he said to me was, allow the universe to love you up. And I think that we forget how loved we are. We forget how we are part of the whole that is creation. We are not separate from it. And we get so caught up in the things that are happening to us, for us, because of us, that we forget all these beautiful truths, right? So I wrote down a few things after I talked to Rich. I wrote down some notes as we were having a conversation. One was this: there are many out there in the seen and unseen to help us. There are so many souls, consciousness, our creator, other human beings. We are never truly alone, and we can even separate ourselves physically and go take ourselves where we think, oh, I'm alone, and I'm going to sit over here and feel bad for myself. And the reason I say that is because that has been me a few times these last couple months, and even this last week. I have these moments where I feel like I'm going through this by myself. But there are many that are out there that are seen and unseen that are there to help us. We are here with purpose. We need to stay the course and remember that we are manifestors. I have spent so much time lately creating, and I will tell you, creation saves you, and it has saved me. And the reason I tell you that is because if we curl up in a ball and feel sorry for ourselves, and that might simply mean sucking into our technology or sucking into series after series on all the different platforms that are available to watch, that is like curling up in a ball and numbing yourself out, because you're not being present and you're not being creative. And there's been so many things that have come out of moments of darkness for me because I put myself into that creative space. And honestly, I can see how some people go to the dark night of the soul and stay there, and possibly even something worse can happen where they take themselves out of this life, because they just don't see hope. They don't realize their own potential as manifestors and creators. And no matter what you're going through, how rough your day might be, your week, your year, whatever tough situation or relationship, or a person that just doesn't see things the way you see them, or whatever the situation is, no matter any of those things, we need to realize that we are creators and manifestors of exactly what our reality is, and part of that is being in the now. So energy, frequency, and vibration around all of us right now is being adjusted. And I think this is really important to remember, because when we get caught in the hard things in life, in each of our own unique situation, we also need to keep in mind that right now in 2024, the frequencies and the energies of the planet are shifting faster than they ever have. And it can leave you unsettled, and it can leave you uncertain and a little bit off of your balance. And if you realize what's happening and you ground yourself, you let yourself go with the flow and you don't try to force anything to happen. And I'm not talking about taking action. I'm talking about don't try to force anything to happen. This is where life can become really steady. And if you have a knowing that you are a manifester and a creator and you go with the flow and you actually take action in those things, I will tell you, I've personally experienced this very recently, and it is a true game changer. So what I did is I actually wrote down in my journal a list of, I actually got to 15 things that will help you stay in the flow state. And I think that this is all part of being present, being part of the Tao, just be. And this is hard, especially, and when I say just be, I don't mean not taking action and in the moments and on the things that you need to take action on. So it's not passive, be in the flow. It's an active be in the flow and do things that bring you joy, bring beauty to the world, and bring value to the world and give you purpose. And at the end of the day, we need to remember that we are here temporarily and we are just borrowing this physical body for this experience. And no matter how hard things get, it's really not that bad. I'm so grateful for my meditation practice and for my knowing that I am bigger than all of this, and that I am connected to the greater source of, and I'm not just connected to creator and source, but I'm connected with everyone, including you and the universe and Mother Earth. And when you pull yourself up out of whatever you're feeling sorry about or trying to force to happen, and you recognize that and you realize it and you put your life into context and your soul, everything can shift. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because there's 15 and I tend to expand on things, and I might do that if the moment arises, okay? So the first thing I wrote down here is we need to embrace uncertainty. Okay, we need to understand that life is inherently unpredictable. Instead of resisting change, learn to adapt and flow with it gracefully. Because here's the thing, it's going to happen whether you're ungraceful or you're graceful. And as I always say when I write these things, because I have put out less than graceful times of my own self, and I do my best to restabilize, to apologize, to correct, and to go back into a place of grace and realize that life is uncertain, and it's always going to be uncertain. Always, always, always. Sometimes it's uncertain in the hard things that happen, and it can change on a dime where the uncertainty turns into something absolutely brilliant. So if we learn how to handle this with grace, any uncertainty that life throws at us, it will always be grateful that we did that. Now the second thing is to cultivate present moment awareness. We need to literally cultivate this. We need to be really strategic about how we walk through our world. And again, this goes along with grace, right? We do this by paying attention to our thoughts, our feelings, our surroundings without judgment. We're always so quick to judge. We judge everything. We judge our friends. We judge the clothes people are wearing. We judge a situation. It's so common to judge someone before you know them, just by how they look, we judge someone on what they look like and sometimes on what their behavior is. We don't know what's going on. I've seen people, literally honk and get mad at somebody who's driving too slow or maybe a tiny bit erratically, and maybe that person is on their way to the hospital with a pregnant wife in the seat next to them. We don't know what's going on in other people's lives, and I think if we take a moment and not judge, then we can literally cultivate present moment awareness. And this is all part of it. I would just as soon slow down and let a driver who kind of maybe cuts in front of me, I would just soon be safe. I never get mad. my heart rate might speed up a little bit if someone cuts me off and it feels like it was dangerous, but it never makes me angry. And this is something that I actually watched my parents, especially my dad. He was always like that. He never let things like that rattle him. He was never an aggressive driver. He was never an angry driver. And I do believe that this is where example is pretty powerful, right? So what we do when we pay attention to our thoughts, feelings, and surroundings without judgment is this allows us to fully experience life as it unfolds. Okay, now the next thing is to trust the process. This one is hard. This one is freaking hard because we want to know what the process is. We want to control it. We want to be able to make plans so when the process happens, we are prepared. But here's what I wrote. We have to have faith in the natural unfolding of events. Trust that everything is happening for your highest good, even if you can't see it at the moment. Oh, that one is relevant for me right now. The next one is to let go of control. This is all part of going with the flow. Release the need to micromanage every aspect of your life. Surrender to the flow of the universe and allow things to unfold organically. Allow them to unfold. You know, and again, this is not talking about being passive. They're going to still unfold, and you can still go with the flow in an active way. You know, it's just like saying, oh, well, I'm just going to go with the flow, and whatever my health does, I'm just going to go with the flow. You still need to exercise this physical body. You still need to eat healthy food because of the biology needs that. We need to hydrate, we need to sleep, and we need to lower our stress levels. We don't need to go with the flow and just eat whatever we want and have no activity and just lay around watching Netflix all day saying, I'm just going with the flow. That's not the kind of flow I'm talking about. So letting go of control, releasing the need to micromanage every aspect of our lives. Super important. Now this one I love. And this one really hit home for me because I've been trying to simplify my life. So what I wrote here is find joy in simplicity. You know, I've never been a person who likes fancy things as far as, you know, jewelry. I mean, I don't wear any jewelry. And it doesn't mean I'm not happy to be married and it doesn't mean I don't have a wedding ring. I'm so busy with my hands. They're either in the dirt, in the herbs, I'm painting, I'm cleaning, I've just, in very small moments in the very first part of my marriage, I was wearing a ring and I have not worn one. And I drive a 10-year-old car and I have clothes, in my closet. I've probably had this shirt for, 15 years. Like I really, and I'm not judging anyone who likes fancy, nice things and clothes. But to me, I think it's important to find the joy in simplicity. And then here's what I wrote. Appreciate the beauty of simplicity in a world that often glorifies complexity. Sometimes the most fulfilling moments can be found in the smallest gestures or experiences. Today, tonight we're going to have a game night with my son and his wife and our 2 grandkids. And I got a text from my grandson, who's 10, he'll be 11 in the summer. And it was simply, hi, and then I love you. And then he sent me a few gifts and a few I love you emojis. And the joy that brought me in the simplicity of being able to just connect with him, which he's thankfully and luckily he's not hardly ever on his phone. He has a phone for emergencies only. But that is a small example of simplicity. And I've decided that, and I started doing this week, I've been going through areas of my house that I just want to renew. And part of the renewing might just mean getting rid of stuff. Getting rid of maybe clutter on the counter. That maybe someone gave me this little thing that I liked and it was a gift and I set it on the counter. And it sat there for the last 5 years. And it might be just a little trinket that maybe needs to go. So to me, making things simple and minimal is really super important. This is just something really important for me. Now this next one all of these are very good, but this one is super important. This is to follow our intuition. That little piece of ourselves that says, hey, wait a minute, don't do that. Or hey, You should go do that. And here's what I wrote on that. Listen to our inner wisdom and trust the guidance that it provides. Our intuition is our compass, and it leads us toward paths that align with our true purpose. You know, many of you know the story of more than 22 years ago. Before I restarted my dad's company, I was working in corporate America for a big fitness chain, fitness centers, and I was managing one of the clubs here in Salt Lake. And I was out on a corporate appointment around lunchtime, and I had the intuition to call one of my sisters. And it was just, you know, I have 8 sisters. I'm one of 9 girls. And the intuition to call this one specific sister was very, very strong. And I'm a person who has always followed my intuition, and I try to follow it right when it guides me. But I picked up my phone and I called. It was a nice little flip phone, I believe, because it was a long time ago. And I called this particular sister, and she was on her way to have lunch with a lady in her neighborhood or in her community, and her daughter, her grown daughter, and she was getting ready to sell them all of our dad's formulas. And this was 4 years after my dad passed. So the assumption was that none of us were going to need them or carry them on or whatever. And that was the moment that I actually decided, I was like, hey, well, I think I might want to do that. And I was pretty unhappy in corporate America. So this is how it started. This is, it gets stronger the more. When you tune into it, you would be shocked at how much it will guide you. It is there as a compass. Okay, now the next one is to take gratitude. You know, this one never leads me wrong. All I have to do is simply step out of what I'm considering to be a hard day, a hard problem, an intense moment, and find a piece of gratitude, something I'm grateful for. And that's super easy. The next one is to embrace impermanence. In order to go with the flow, we need to embrace that life is not permanent. We can't put something in place and have it be permanent. It just doesn't work that way. It never has. It never has for all of humans in all of history. Life is impermanent, and here's what I wrote. So we have to embrace it. Understand that nothing in life is permanent. We must embrace the impermanent nature of existence and cherish each moment as it arises, knowing that it won't last forever. So the goal is to cherish the times that are provided for our growth and our learning. You know, we are so adaptable as human beings. I mean, look what happened during 2020. You know, not only did people adapt to those changes, it actually woke a lot of people up to some beautiful things that we needed to be woken up to. And I remember hearing the saying that things are never going to go back to the way they were. And if you think about it, that's actually a good thing, because so many people have stepped into their power, stepped into their truth, and have realized that the way their life works and the way it expresses is up to them. So we really have to embrace impermanence, because it's a part of change is a constant, right? Now next one I love too. This kind of goes along with finding joy and simplicity. And what I wrote here is practice non-attachment. So getting attached to things and getting attached to people. You know, there are people, not just friends and acquaintances, but sometimes family members that can flow maybe out and back in to our lives, and maybe out, and maybe it's a permanent out. And that might be something that, you know, to grab a hold of these things that aren't supposed to be, you know, that's why I wrote we need to practice non-attachment. If we are looking to give ourselves the best experience in flow here, and there are people and situations in life that don't respect that, don't fit with that, it's okay to not be attached to them, to that person, to that situation, to that thing. You know, I mean, we all like our creature comforts, but, you know, what would happen if something that we had, you know, we couldn't have it anymore, and we had to downgrade to something that was less? You know, we have to practice non-attachment. You know, life just throws this at us all the time. Surrender to the flow is the next one. Allow life to carry you forward, trusting that you are exactly where you need to be. Allow life to carry you forward, trusting that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Surrendering to the flow doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of resistance and embracing acceptance. It's not folding and giving in. It's not that. It's finding a simple peace within us that allows us to be. And I think we'd be surprised at how beautifully life will flow and work for us in our favor because we're not trying to force anything. Again, this is where I would really suggest you pick up Power versus Force. This is a beautiful, beautiful, probably the most well-known book of Dr. David Hawkins. That one and Letting Go. Those are probably his two best-known books. But that is so perfect. Now, the next one is to cultivate self-compassion. Give ourselves grace. Be compassionate with yourself. Forgive yourself. We screw up. I screw up on a regular basis, and it might not be ginormous things. It might be little things. It might be big things. It might be things I have to kind of go, oh, I can't believe. We have to give ourselves grace and compassion. So here's what I wrote with that. Be gentle with yourself during times of struggle or difficulty. I will tell you, there's been a few times in the last month, and there was even one time this week, where I was less than patient with a situation that was happening. In fact, this week we just changed the back end platform of our shopping cart, and it's huge. It's still not all the way perfect. We definitely got very far this week, but I had a little moment of less than grace for the person who has been working on this for the past 4 months to get this so it was a smooth transition. And then I immediately, within about an hour, I apologized and just said I'm sorry. So I think that we need to forgive ourselves quickly, and this is part of practicing self-compassion, right? Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a dear friend. I think there's that saying that's always, we treat our friends better than we treat our family members or ourselves. We always show our friends the best side of us. And I think that that's a really good thing to start practicing, is to show those we love the best side of ourselves. And sometimes it might be asking for forgiveness quickly for maybe if you stepped out of line or you had a heated moment or whatever. Now this one, I wrote this again because it just seems really relevant. This one is embracing change. So I have embrace impermanence. So change and impermanence. Change is just something big is changing. Impermanence is just the impermanence of life. But here's what I wrote to that. Recognize that change is inevitable and necessary for growth. It's absolutely necessary. We're never going to grow. And looking back on 2020 and throughout 2021, that was a huge year of growth for me, especially 2020, when I just felt like I could see things and I couldn't wake other people up. I had moments where I was just so frustrated. I was so angry at parts of humanity, and I wouldn't want to go back and live those times again, but I'm grateful for them because I feel like there was a lot of growth, so much growth. And I really feel like this first part of this year, there's been a lot of growth for me again. And I keep asking myself, why am I choosing these things? But maybe this is what I came down for. And the only way that I'm going to grow and elevate my consciousness is with these hard things and embracing change. So instead of fearing change, welcome it as an opportunity for transformation and evolution. Oh, we're all after that, right? Okay, I just have 3 more here. The next one is to live authentically. Be authentic to who you are. Don't try to be like someone else. Don't try to be like someone on social media that you follow, or be like your sister, or be like your parents were. You can emulate the good parts. You can take the things that people use things that are good that you can use as an example. That's always wonderful. But if we're going to live authentic to who we are, this is going to really make life so, so rich and allow us to go with the flow, because we're not trying to keep up with anybody or impress anybody. You know, it is really true that when you get older, you start to really stop caring what other people think about you, and the way you dress and the way you, you know, you just stop caring if other people judge you for the way you walk through life. So we have to really live authentically, authentic to who we are. This one I really love. Honor your true self and live in alignment with your beliefs and values. Authentic living brings a sense of fulfillment and meaning to your life's journey. You know, when you narrow down to that beautiful, brilliant, authentic you, it is much easier to go with the flow of life, you know, because you're just being authentic to who you are. Of course, I have to put here, connect with nature. I went on a couple of hikes this past week with a couple of friends. I did one hike by myself and one with a couple of friends. And we had to put snow spikes on because there's, you know, snow up in the mountains. You're going to go up the trails. There's ice and there's snow pack, and it's crisp and it's beautiful, and it gets your heart pumping and your cheeks all rosy. And connecting with nature is a really important part of going with the flow. Here's what I wrote. When we spend time in nature to reconnect with the rhythms of the natural world, nature has a way of grounding us and reminding us of our interconnectedness with all living beings. You know, this is a good reminder. Every time I go outside, every time I go for a walk, the mountains are definitely my happy place. A little bit harder in the winter just because it is so cold and you can't get to some of the biggest tops of the mountains that I like to climb to. But whenever I get outside and connect with Mother Nature, life definitely flows better, and it helps for things to flow around me. Now, the last one I wrote here is to cultivate inner peace. You know, one of the most important ways that I found to do this, literally, is to step away from my technology. And especially before I used to be in the habit of checking my email before I went to bed, because running a business, I want to check to make sure everything's good. And it's interesting when you stop doing that. It's interesting how life shifts. So what I wrote here is to prioritize inner peace above external achievements or validation. True peace comes from within and is not dependent on external circumstances. You know, I think it's really easy to forget that we get to control our own suffering. We can choose to have the thoughts and the constant wheel in our brain that's telling us how bad the world is, how I'm not ever going to get ahead, or I'm not going to ever have what I want, or this person's not ever going to do what I want, or whatever. We need to realize that in order to cultivate inner peace, we need to be mindful of what our thoughts are and how they create our own suffering. You know, this is something I have to remind myself of daily. With all these growth challenges that I've been given, and I know that when I come out the other side of this, it's going to be amazing, and I'm going to be grateful for the moments I did handle things with grace, and I'm going to be grateful for the growth that I had when I did not handle things with grace, because that's part of the experience, right? So I actually found this saying from Lao Tzu, and it kind of came up when I searched for going with the flow quotes, and it's very interesting. So let me read this to you, and I think this is where I'm going to end it. The man of superior virtue is not conscious of his virtue, and in this way he really possesses virtue. The man of inferior virtue never loses sight of his virtue, and in this way he loses his virtue. And this was a quote that came up when I was looking for quotes about going with the flow of life. And I thought that was so interesting because it's not what I expected. It didn't say anything about going with the flow, practicing mindfulness. It was completely different. And I love the work of Lao Tzu. He is a famous philosopher, and many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with him. But let me read this one more time. The man of superior virtue is not conscious of his virtue, And in this way, he really possesses virtue. The man of inferior virtue never loses sight of his virtue. And in this way, he loses his virtue. You know, this is something that can be sat down with and maybe even journaled on. Like, what does this mean for me? And how can I, put this into my life and let it help me go through the flow? So always allow the universe to love you up. So I started with that. Thank you, Rich, again, for that beautiful reminder, that there are many out there in the seen and unseen to help us. We are here with purpose. We need to stay the course and realize we are manifestors and we are creators. So I hope for you a really beautiful week. A couple of things. I'm just going to housekeep here at the end, which is what I do. If you have any subscriptions on our website, where you get something that comes to you every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, this is a part of the back end of our website that we're still working on. And we can help you get you're going to need to go in and set your subscriptions up all over again, and you might need our help doing that. So if you have some subscriptions and you're unable to go in and modify them, give us a call, reach out to us, and we'll help you, okay? Now the second thing is because I have had this huge gift of this incredible, intense experience I'm going through, I went into massive creation mode at the beginning of it because I realized it wasn't going to tie up quickly. Even though I tried to force it to, there were a few times I tried to force it. I just was like, here, look, this is here, what's happening. This is the truth. Here, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I was trying to force this process to happen. And when I realized, okay, this is not going to be quick. It might be relatively quick in the whole scheme of things, but in this exact moment, in something that feels so incredibly intense for my business, this is not going to happen fast. And this is where I need to trust the universe. But this is where I stepped into action. And what I did is I started creating. Now, I've been painting like a fiend, but I went into creation mode with a brand new antiviral blend because many people have gotten totally, they know where they can come to for antiviral formulas, and mainly the Lomatium, right? And this is what's kind of off the table at the moment. And this where we are at the first part of March, I believe we're only a couple weeks away from resolving this, which is beautiful, right? But what I did is at the end of December, I went into creation mode. Now the way I formulate is I gather up exactly what it is, and I get out my journal and I write down what is it that I want to create. Do I want to create something for this organ system? Do I want to create for this issue, this ailment? What is it that I'm after? And then what I'll do is I'll start to gather up all of the herbs and everything that I need to know and that I want in a formula that does these things. And so that's what I went into this place of, okay, I need something that I can add to my line permanently, but that I can bring out as soon as I can so that we have an alternative. And so after I went into my due diligence phase, then I went into my inspiration phase, where I go in with a group of herbs that I've selected, and I literally go into a place of prayer and meditation and inspiration. And this is where my dad drops in and helps me. He comes in and I literally feel like he's helping me put a formula together. This one, yes, in this percent. This one, no, that one doesn't work in this formula. And I literally came up with a beautiful blend of 8 herbs, and my son Scott we named this blend Pivot 8 because there's 8 herbs and this was a pivot. In order to sometimes survive hard things, we have to pivot. We accept challenges by saying, okay, I'm not going to be passive, I'm going to be active. And the reason I'm telling you all of this, because this is something you can do too. And here's what this ended up looking like. You can see how beautiful this is. There's a little infinity circle on there, and it says Pivot 8. I'll hold it really close. Isn't that pretty? It's metallic-y. There's a little bit of light shining on there. But if you're this far in, look how beautiful this is. This is a dark, dark green. and it tastes amazing. It's very, very, very herby. But this is a beautiful, beautiful antiviral blend. And if you are looking for something to add into your arsenal for cold and flu season, if you're dealing with a long-standing systemic viral load, this is a really, really good option. And then I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what's coming in the next couple weeks as well. So many of you are familiar with a very famous blend of herbs called Essiac. And it's over 100 years old. This was a formula that was put together by a Canadian nurse named Renee Casey. And my dad was blessed enough to work with her in the late 60s. So after he worked with her and the 4 herbs that she put in this traditional formula, he added 2 more herbs to the formula. And we've been carrying a tincture of it for many years. My dad made this formula way, way before he passed away. I've been making it the 22 years I've been going on my own. And just now, I have been making a serum and a salve for your skin with these 6 herbs that are infused into an oil. And these are going to be coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So this is something I'm so excited about. This is going to nourish your skin if you've had a ton of sun on your shoulders or on your head or on your neck or your hands or your arms, and you want something to nourish your skin and help mitigate the damages of maybe too much sun, whatever. Be looking for that. And again, I tell you this because I don't think we realize the manifestation and the creative power that each of us hold, each of us have, and it's different for everyone. You know, I have friends who are songwriters. I have friends who are filmmakers. I have friends who are carpenters and attorneys. And, you know, I have, like all the rest of you, we all have these people in our lives and in our families that have these skills, and they're unique to each of us. What I do is going to be very different than what you do and what you bring out to the world. You know, it can seem a little bit overwhelming to find that purpose. But what I would say, and this goes along with a little story that Jim Carrey told, and I believe I told this last week as well. But if you can fail at something you don't love, you might as well give a shot to doing something you do love. So the first piece of finding your manifestation creative power and going with the flow of life is to do what you love. And you would be surprised that I believe there's always a way to monetize that, especially when you're bringing value and service and you're having so much joy. If you're a painter and an artist, you know, that could be a side gig while you're working on doing whatever you want to do with that. I mean, the possibilities are absolutely endless. So I want to know what it is that you do creatively and in a way of manifestation that helps you go with the flow. Let me know in the comments. I don't care how old or how young you are. We all have things. Maybe tell me what it is that you want to do. You know, what is it that you want to do? You know, what is it that you want to bring to the world? And maybe fess up. What have you been doing that's kind of, you've put yourself in a bit of a victim mentality and you're ready to move out of that? You know, it's, life is beautiful. And we don't have to stay in a dark night of the soul. We can maybe dip into there for a minute and go, oh, this is not a place I want to be. You know, that is not the place I want to be. So go with the flow. Power versus force, my friends. So I hope you have a beautiful first week of March. Unbelievable, we're in March. And I hope that this week lots of lights shine on you and you have an absolutely brilliant, brilliant week. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.